engineers in the year of 2010 and managing director of HIEE. We started HIEE in the year of 2010 with the intent of upskilling engineering grads by means of providing industrial knowledge. We started with 3 engineers in the year of 2010 and in these 12 years of journey we trained almost 12,000 plus students, and out of 12,000 I can proudly say like 8,000 plus engineering grads got placement, starting from small scale industries to the top MNCs. By keeping the world class needs in mind, like we have designed our classroom as a virtual classroom, and with which is suitable to conduct the classes online and offline segment.
In HIEE, what we do is we take one-on-one sessions where we give them a tailored program where they can work and clear the interview at least in first 3 attempts.
If I have any doubts to clarify, the team of HIEE is available at any time to clarify any doubts for me.
HIE plays a very important role. It does this quintessential job of transforming students who come with raw knowledge of engineering, whether it is electrical, civil or mechanical, and convert them into a finished ornament. A finished ornament in the sense that the engineering company is ready to accept them as an employee in their organization.
In addition, with our technical classroom training, we are providing industrial visits, like we are going to outdoor solar PV plants and substations and switchgear panel visits, and based on the permissions we are getting, we will also visit various power plants. Coming to the civil people, like we will visit various construction sites.
We try to understand every person's or an engineer's abilities and then work on their efficiencies and to the core segments and help them to get placed in a right career in all aspects.
I used to work in residential field as a technical supervisor in maintenance department. I worked 3 years in maintenance. Then I decided to upgrade my knowledge in the core. Then I got to know about the HIEE doing great job for the engineers who wants to sit in core. I trained from the HIEE and good knowledge in core. I got placement in Accutronic India Private Limited as a service engineer. I am very happy with my role and company thanks to HIEE.
We conduct various mock interviews during the training. Based on the company profile, we separately train the candidates on interview segment, like what kind of questions they may ask you during the interview, and so that will help them in boosting their candidates' confidence. That's how HIEE students are excelling in the interviews.
At HIEE, we were given personal assistance, and every week mock interviews were conducted, and which helped me in cracking interviews at a very early stage, and I'm very happy with HIEE.
Thank you to HIEE for getting me that opportunity.
I'm very much glad that HIEE is celebrating its 12th anniversary. I wish many more to come. Thank you, HIEE.
HIEE is the one-stop solution for the engineering grads to get your dream jobs and to upskill your knowledge. Join with HIEE, get skilled, get hired.
accredited knockouts can Hello. आप दे रहा हूँ
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. HRW is a furnishing school where we train core segment graduates and professionals to get industry-oriented training and help them get into their right career. So I welcome you to the 55th webinar conducted as a part of 100 webinars mission. So today we are here with Mr. Shrikant, founder and CEO of Hala Mobility. Hala is a multi-e-mass platform, and Shrikant has got his dual masters from UPM Madrid and Uniped Padova. Also, he has done his doctoral thesis over shared mobility. He was a part of World Mobility where he was handling data. He is part of the mobility industry from past 8 years and 2 years with Hala. So let's start the webinar today. Looking forward to Shrikant. Yeah. Um,
A very good morning, everyone. I'm Shrikant, founder CEO at Hala Mobility. And at Hala, we're building this multimodal EV shared mobility platform for third-party logistics delivery companies and delivery personnel to quickly move towards EV, right? So we try to bring in a lot of elements like the electric vehicles, the IoTs, the technology behind it to make the army on the ground, run smoother, right? So we offer this bundle solution as a package to the end customer. Thereby, it increases the penetration rates of EVs in the market. Yeah. So with that said, we have been traveling around 1,000,000 kilometers already, month on month basis, and we are already partnered with 24 bigger logistic companies. Name a few like Big Basket, Flipkart, Amazons of the world. And now we are in the phase of growth, wherein we are trying to deploy more number of EVs onto the market. And in the next 18 months, we are aggressively trying to deploy 10,000 fleet as part of Hala's zero carbon emission mission. Right. And today, very happy to share what I've learned over the past 8 years of my journey and how exactly the Indian market is working towards EV segment. Broadly, not just aggregating to that, but trying to put forward what exactly goes within an electric vehicle and how the communication happens within different parts of the electric vehicle, and maybe say how we can utilize the technology of IoTs, the AI, ML into the electric vehicles and trying to understand what goes within that, right? So feel free, you can drop your comments and try to share what exactly are you willing to understand. If in between, if you want us to understand what you want to learn more, you can just drop a line and we're happy to answer your questions. Well, a small and quick presentation for the session today. A little bit about what we try to do at Hala. As I said, it's India's first multimodal EV shared mobility platform with data at its core, meaning, there is a lot of information that we're going to process day on day basis. It can be from the vehicle, from the battery, and a lot many parameters about where the deliveries are happening. And we are trying to bring everything under one umbrella, thereby increasing the penetration rates of EVs in the market. And as you see, we have all these bigger partners associated with Hala. So we know, like, today Indian government is pushing towards EVs, and the businesses like Zomato, like Zepto, like Flipkart, because of their ESG norms, they are moving towards electric vehicles to cut down their carbon emissions, right? Even though, having said, there is a lot of demand, lot of need, but customers are facing a lot of bottlenecks when we're trying to move towards EVs. One first and foremost thing is the upfront cost of these EVs, and there are lesser finance options for these EVs, right? And the EV is new right now, but electric vehicles have been moving around us from a while, and for them to replace a battery pack, it's too costly, right? And now, say if the same old people have to replace or resale the vehicle, there is no cashback, there is no buyback, there is no standard resale value calculation, right? And to calculate this, the risk that are happening with the electric vehicles, there is no the insurance costs are too high, right? And over and above that, people always have a concern about the safety, security, and reliability. That is what we're trying to address here, and we're trying to remove all this myth and build this multimodal EV mobility platform. Right, little statistics about what we did is today we are running with 1,339 vehicles, roaming around 9 million kilometers to date in 5 cities: Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Vizag, and Chennai. And we have saved a tons of reduced consumption of thousands of liters of petrol, and we're almost doing 60,000. We are doing almost 60,000 battery swaps a month, which is almost saving 180 hours per month per delivery partner, right? That thereby he can utilize this time in trying to charge the vehicle, or to whatever, to make his livelihood better. So we have started this platform with a mission to make every mile go electric, and we are now penetrating aggressively into tier 1, tier 2 cities as well. Yeah. So how does the whole ecosystem work that we're trying to build is, we have a lot of IoT modules that are sitting within the electric vehicles. I would cover deeply about all these segments, but trying to give a holistic approach of how it works, right? So there's a lot of IoT modules that are incorporated with MQTT, BLE, GPS, GPRS, and different protocols. All of them come towards our central multimodal EV platform, which is Circle OS, and we then offer this solution as a fleet as a service, battery as a service, or a platform as a service, and data as a service. So fleet comes towards the delivery partners, delivery personnel, or the companies. Battery as a service who want to own the vehicle but don't want to own the battery pack. And say if the same companies want to utilize the backend tools of ours, we offer them as a platform as a service. And then there's a lot of data that we're generating, right? So the insurance companies, or it can be city councils, it can be the infrastructure developer, or any other fleet operators. They can utilize this data on getting where exactly to set up the charging points, where to set up the battery stations, and lot many parameters about what to do on the ground in terms of setting up infrastructure. It's a simple customer journey that happens through our platform. It is primarily a customer hops onto Hala's platform, books a vehicle, reaches the nearest station. During his journey, he moves to nearest swap station or the charge station, picks it up, and end of the rental, he drops it at the network of Hala station. Once it is done, we curate a flexible lease to own model based on the drive patterns that he has gone through, right? And once he has bought it, we also offer him the regular notifications on how to get the vehicle serviced. All this we curate him a buyback offer up to 40%. So as I said, there are rental companies earlier, and there will be rental companies later on too. So how is it Hala different from others? Is because we are trying to control the internal technology, which is the heart of electric vehicles. Today we see Intel inside, and what we want to be is something of that sorts, where everything, all the electric vehicles are powered by our hardware that are sitting inside. So we have IoT and VCU hardwares that are sitting inside the scooter, smart BMS that is sitting inside the battery pack, and we have a device agnostic platform that is handling all these operations. Moving to what we are talking about today, primarily the whole session is going to be concentrating on the core components of the electric vehicle. It will be motor, controller, IoT or a VCU, cluster meter, and the battery pack. I'll just quickly walk through the demonstration, work desk, and from there we'll go part by part. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. So as we discussed, right? So the next session, the actual session right now is primarily going to be the components of the electric vehicles, right? Like what is happening at the motor, what is happening with the controller, what is happening with the battery pack, and how these are communicating with each other. And as a manufacturer, as a fleet utilizer, how or an end customer, how do you want to uh, how do you get the information from this electric vehicles? That is how we are going to look at it. Right, primarily in an electric vehicle we have the central control unit, which is a motor controller, right? And then there is a communication board that communicates all this information to different parts of the vehicle. And then there is a IoT telematic device which actually collects this information and sends it to a data to the cloud, right? Over and above, to power up all these things, the major power unit is going to be the battery pack, which can be 48 volts, 60 volts, and 72 volts. And typically, what happens is when a battery pack is powered up to the motor controller, there is a communication exchange between the motor controller and the battery pack saying that, hey, I'm XYZ battery pack, and I'm trying to authorize you to give the power in. Controller right now accepts this information and tries to pump it out, the respective information in terms of turning on the ignition, turning off the lights, whatever. And now this IoT is trying to fetch all of this information and push it to the cloud, saying, hey, there is an ignition on operation that happened. And if there is, the seat lock seat lock function that is enabled, or the vehicle is being parked here. If I have to dig deeper inside, what exactly happens within when the ignition is on? Once the ignition is on, it's gonna control the 12 volts DC-DC chopper. And this 12 volts DC-DC chopper will be controlling all the power units. It can be, the bulbs, the side lamps, the odometers, and every such. Now, once I give a command on any such options, it's going to power up the motor controller saying, hey, why don't you do this task? Now, IoT decides if this is a legal option or an illegal option. And now the controller takes a decision and does the given output, right? Now, it all depends. The whole setup today, what we're seeing is a 72 volt powertrain. When I say 72 volt powertrain, each of this battery pack is comprised of 3.6 volt, 650 cells, right? There are different variants of cells. It is dependent on what capacity, what energy density we are utilizing. And for today's sake, we are using a 18650 cell, which is a 3.6 volt and a 2.5 Ah cell chemistry, right? To get the 72 volts, that means you just need to divide 7.2 volts by 3.6, which is 24 series, right? And then if you try to put everything in parallel, then you get the capacity of that battery pack. That is how a battery pack capacity is made. And with this, you have a 72 volts battery pack with a 40 Ah capacity today, and which is pumping up its power to the motor controller. Once the motor controller is powered up, as I said, the IoT takes a decision, and remotely we will be able to understand or configure this particular scooter, its speed, its ignition, its position, its how is it placed, and if there are any alerts that are happening, any illegal tasks that are happening on the scooter, all of these would be monitored, right? And in the motor controller, again, as I said, the communication can be of different ways. It can be RS485, 232, scan enabled, or UART enabled. It is all depending on what we are trying to achieve from the motor controller and at what speed, right? And also how we are going to enable this. Is it through MQTT or is it through TCP IP? Now, when I say CAN, it is more of a sophisticated protocol where it's become a global standard where the data can be retrieved in the form of a packets. And now, if we have to look at the serial protocols, they have their own, uh, you know, pros and cons. But primarily looking at CAN because CAN is more of a, the standard that has been developed in the automotive industry. Thereby, we have exact bit rates, exact bytes that are coming onto the platform on a, in a standard format. On the other hand, now to make all this communicated, all of them has to be in sync. Taking it from the cluster meter, taking it from the IoT and to the controller and the battery pack. All of them, the communication goes through the central control unit, which is the vehicle control unit, whereby it is trying to get the information from the cluster meters, from the motor controllers, from the battery packs, and trying to share that information to all the peripherals like lights, bulbs, honks, or the motor is typically going to be more of it's not something rocket science, I would say, because we have been utilizing the wake the fans which are running in our the ceiling fans that are running in our home, right? It's typically it is running on the top and giving you the air, and here it is more on the chassis and on the axle trying to give you the forward movement. So it is all a copper binding that is happening inside the motor, and which we always have learned about how electric uh, pulse has converted into a mechanical force, and we are trying to utilize in terms of motion, right? And with that said, so the power of a motor controller or a motor would depend on the amount of binding that you've done. There are also a couple of sensors that we are going to place inside the motor controller or inside the motor itself, which are called as Hall sensors that will detect how the motor is functioning, if there are any faulty things that is happening. Uh, that is something about a schematic diagram or a schematic communication that is happening within the vehicle itself, and this is how a typical electric vehicle functions. And here during this, maybe there are too many of the components that should touch base. I would love to hear from the audience if there is something that is missing and if we can address something in detail.
So hello guys, do you have any questions? You can just drop them in the chat
No,
box.
madam.
So now we have a question say, asked by Mohammed Shoaib, saying that nowadays we are leasing about EV's battery and blast. What is the reason behind it, and what is the battery SOC and some?
Sure. Okay. So thanks for putting that question out, Shoaib. I understand. So as I hear you, there are 3 points that you put forward, right? One is the battery blast. Two is the SOC part. Three is the how are these parts? How are these things? Fire incidents happening here. So as I said, it's a if we have to build a 72 volts battery pack, there are cells set up in the series and parallel, thereby giving you a voltage and then the AH, right? And all of this, once they're packed together, there is a BMS, which is a battery management system, right? Which will try to control at every string level, right? When I said 24 series of batteries are placed, that means a BMS of 24 series, that 24 strings have to be placed, which monitors what is happening in that particular string, right? And all of these are packed within the epoxy sheet and then over a thermal inflated cover. Thereby, the thermal runaway is not happening. First question to address, what is the SOC, what is the DTE? All these parameters are something about what is SOC actually stands for state of charge, which means what is the current state of charge of that particular battery pack. Not just that, we get almost 100 to 120 parameters from the battery pack. It can be cell level voltage, cell level temperature, and what are the NTC probes, which are how many temperature sensors are placed inside the battery pack, and how do you control the MOSFET. MOSFET is a sense like the MOSFETs are placed inside the battery management system to control the charge to control if the battery pack can take the charging or no, to control if the discharge of the battery pack is happening or no. These are something that you're going to control within that. And above and beyond that, there are certain parameters like DPE, which is called distance to empty. How many kilometers my scooter can go, and there are also something called RSOC, which is called as residual state of charge. When I say residual state of charge, it means what exactly is the remaining capacity of the battery pack that I can utilize, right? So generally what happens is, in a very layman terms, I would like to say here, take a very normal smartphone, increase its brightness, turn on all your GPS parameters, turn on all your functionalities of NFC, internet, everything, and try to utilize it for like 10 minutes. Your phone gets heated up. That means there is a lot of power consumption that you're trying to do from your battery pack in your phone, right? The similar thing happens with your battery pack in the EV also. When you're trying to, that is why manufacturers tries to say, do not use a charger which is not given by the manufacturer. Do not change any components until it is authorized by a manufacturer. So there are, the battery pack is manufactured or battery pack is assembled in such a way it is compatible with the set that is placed here, right? And now if I try to change this, the motor controller or the battery pack with a different parameter, then there is no way that we're able to control how much power we are trying to drag from the battery pack. If I'm using 48 volt battery pack and I'm using a 72 volt controller, that means I'm trying to utilize more amount of energy. Then the cells in the battery pack gets heated up. Once they get into a heated mode, then there is a potential chance of thermal runaway. It is not just this, but say suppose you're trying to use a 48 volt battery pack and trying to use a 72 volt charger. That means when the charger is placed within the battery pack, the BMS tries to cut off, saying, hey, this is not the authorized battery pack. Please change it. Please change it. It's going to talk a multiple number of times. And at a one particular point of a time, it's going to break. And that point of a time, the voltage pumped into the battery pack is 72 volts, which the pack can take only up to 48. So with this abnormality, the temperature inside the battery pack increases, and this will cause a thermal runaway. And this is one of the another potential causes where the battery blasts are happening or battery burns are happening. So one needs to be cautiously aware. When I pick up a battery pack or when I pick up the scooter in a general sense, my motor controller or a battery pack or a charger is not touched, tampered. Any chance of moving, getting the water involved into the battery pack, it will cause a thermal runaway. Anytime if the battery pack is overly charged, it might also turn into a thermal runaway. Whenever a battery pack is kept in a place where there is a low earthing capacity, when we do the electric wiring in our houses or in the factories, there is something called as earthing that is done to control the fluctuations, to control the noise in the electricity, right? So when this is not there, and when the batteries are directly placed on the ground, there is also a shock that's going to come out of the battery pack. Even though they are metallic coated, even if they're powder coated, the rust might be less, the eruption might be less, but still there is a very minor chance of getting this power in. And that is where the developments are happening today, wherein we're looking at aluminum casing, wherein we are trying to bring in IP65 rated, and we are trying to make the BMS is even smart. We're trying to put spacing between the cells, and we're trying to put fuses at every point so that, any sorts of leakages like this, all these cases which we've discussed now will be moved away from the equation of, a thermal runaway happening. And also it depends on what type of connector you're using. The connectors sometimes might be loose, the connectors sometimes might be different, and connectors sometimes might be faulty. So one needs to be cautiously aware when they are utilizing their electric vehicle to look into all these parameters on a day-to-day basis. What we think is electric vehicle is a low maintenance product, but at the same time, we need to be keen because electric vehicles are in a very nascent stage, and we need to support the ecosystem in terms of whatever best possible ways that it can happen. I hope I've answered your question in detail in all of these three parameters. If there is something, very happy to share again.
So the next question is that Vivek can.
So you like to sit here and speak up?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Like almost like hundreds of questions are popping.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah.
Some of the questions have been answered.
Yeah, but we'll go by names and all, so
Sure.
let's ask. If it is the question is been answered, then it's been answered.
Done. Or I'll sit there so that I can interact better.
You can also mute.
Yeah, you can.
Oh no, he's using this noise. It's okay.
Continue.
Yeah. Sorry for this interruption. I think I was just trying to say this point out. This is something that happens when we sit in a warehouse, try to understand what happens. So there's a lot of movement, but it's good to see what. Okay. I think we have answered this.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I have a doubt about little battery system. Can I ask you?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Actually, in mechanical bikes, we using liquid fluid cooling system, right? Is we can't able to use to battery like that?
See, it's all about the real estate, right? Right now, we're talking about a two-wheeler. So in a two-wheeler, there is a space of around, say, whatever is there in your boot or whatever is there inside.
Actually, we are using in mechanical bikes a fluid system. Okay.
Yes.
Liquid fluid system, right?
Right.
Is we can't able to use in batteries like that?
We
surrounded
will
by
be able
any
to use.
liquid fluid system?
We will be 100% able to be using this kind of technologies, and these are something that potential researchers are already working on. Right?
Sir, can you mute that persons?
We'll just do one thing. Let's not everybody mute. Let them raise the hand. I'll mute everybody. They'll speak up and then we'll again mute them. That's
Sure.
easy.
It works. So sorry.
You need to unmute this first and then speak. Even it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue.
Right. So the thermal or the fluid mechanism, fluid cooling mechanism is already being tested, being validated in the labs, right? What exactly? Because today I'm running a fleet and I know what exactly goes through within the real estate. Right? When I said real estate, it is the amount of space that we have within the scooter, right? So if you look at it, typically now a battery pack is placed within the boot of the scooter, and the limitations of this space on to place what kind of a battery pack and how much range it can give, and adding to it, if we are adding a fluid mechanism, so the real estate has to accommodate that. So that is one such big problem where we are facing, and these are something mechanically, the mechanical engineers can bring a lot of innovation into place, right? On the other hand, there are researchers happening on this element, and we might see something coming up in the later stages as well. Can any electric vehicle run without any recharge? I would say it's impossible at the moment, unless it is powered by solar, wherein your battery pack is there, the recharge is happening at least with the solar. So when we say electric, there is no way of auto generation of this electricity in the battery pack, right? Many people claim that there is a regenerative braking that is happening. From a personal experience and as an engineer, it's a drop in the ocean that we are going to feed it to the battery pack. And whenever regularly we have these discussions with other the engineers, and we see it's creating more of a damage than creating more of a ease to the end customer. Nowadays, we are leasing of EV batteries. I think, Shoaib, we have answered this question. Uh, how? Sure. Yeah. So Deva,
Good
please go
afternoon,
ahead
sir.
and ask your question. Good afternoon.
Sir, is there any drawbacks of EVs, sir? Can I know that you are going to rectify that?
So drawbacks in comparison to what? Well, here we are trying to do, when we are saying we are moving towards an electric vehicle, it is a complete transition from a ICE vehicle to a EV. The internal combustion engine vehicles, why aren't we not using, even though after getting at BS6, today the need of an hour is to reduce the operational expenses, reduce the pollution, reduce the, the net carbon footprint or zero carbon footprint that is happening to a minimal level. And now I would say it is way better than actually IC vehicles. So I I don't see much of a drawbacks other than that, rest everything is under control. So I don't see any drawbacks with electric vehicles. If there is any specific about the drawbacks as such, then we may address that. But in general, in the automotive industry, if the transition is happening from IC to EV, then it's a very good transition.
Okay, Srikant, just give me 1 minute. Hope everybody is able to hear me, guys. Guys, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me? Kavya, can you hear me? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Indraja. There's so much of rush in questions and the hand raising, guys. We understand your interest in knowing the answers. We'll come by one, guys. We'll first clear off the questions that have been asked earlier, and then we'll come back to the question, guys who have raised your hands, guys. That would be easy for us to accommodate and answer everybody's questions, because I don't want anybody to miss out. Please try to understand, and that will help us in clearing your doubts in a very better way. So Kavya, can we come from the first, please? Please address the name and then question.
So I'll just come from the start. The first question was, we answered 2 questions till now. We'll go forward and answer some more questions.
Okay, there's a question from Samsung SMA217.
That's
He's saying
answered.
like an electric vehicle runs without any recharge.
That question is already answered.
So we'll go with this. What is the best method to do? Vishnu K has asked a question saying that what is the best method to deal a thermal runaway problem in battery to reduce the battery balance of it?
Sure.
So today we are seeing this thermal runaways, right? The thermal runaways, I've said the potential reasons, it can be interchanging the components within the scooter, interchanging the battery packs, interchanging the chargers, or anything as such. And the best way to deal this is to abide to what the vehicle manufacturer has guided you to. If you see any abnormalities, like when you bought a vehicle and you see some change, some tamper happening at the battery casing level, you immediately need to raise a flag to the manufacturer or to the nearest dealer. Also, never try to recharge or charge your battery pack than the suggested amount of time. It can be, if we are told to do charge for 3 hours, where the indicators on the charger indicates if the battery is full or 75% or 80%, we need to just stop it at that use case, right? And any change in the components will affect the complete battery pack. And also adding to it, do not use any unauthorized charger with the vehicle. Always try to, once you have gone to a longer ride and came back for the charging, try to ensure that the battery pack is cooled down. It's not because once the battery pack is heated up and then once you charge the charger to it, there is a heat generated and that might cause a potential thermal runaway as well. So I hope these are few things that we need to look into, every time that we're charging or discharging a scooter. so that the potential thermal runaway is reduced. Yeah. So Vishnu Teja asked a question: can we apply the temperature control system to control the heating effect of the battery? Yes, Vishnu Teja. As I said, the smart battery packs have the temperature sensors. These are called NTC probes, right? The more the number of temperature probes, it's more better. Potentially, it can't. We generally try to use as industry standard like 3 to 4 NTC probes, which would give different measurements, and we try to average it out. So these temperature sensors would give us a clear understanding about if there is a temperature raise or decrease within the cell and what is the difference. And this difference would help us in judging, what exactly is happening with the battery pack. On the other side, there are protection symbols that are done, programmed internally within the BMS itself. When the temperature exceeds, there is the MOSFET controls are turned on by the smart BMS itself. When the temperature controls are low, it will try to control the BMS's controls again. So it is the smart BMSs would take all its decision based on the temperature sensors, and these are already placed inside the battery pack. From Nishchal, the question is the future completely electric vehicles? I would say yes, and the future is going to be electric. It can be, a different chemistry of the battery pack that you're going to use. It can be hydrogen cell, solid, aluminum, or lithium titanium oxide, which is coming up now. But the future is electric. That is what I believe, and that is how I started the business, I would say. What is the difference between petrol engine and this? As the name stated, the major difference here is the ICE vehicle, which is internal combustion engine, works with petrol. That means the energy generated there is with the combustion of this petrol as a medium, right? Here we are trying to utilize the electricity, or the electric energy that is saved inside the battery pack to convert into the motion or any usage that we're doing today. Tell me battery mAh and how much time to charge, right? Thank you, Mahesh, for this question. It's not a rocket science here again. Let us not take mAh here, because the battery pack that we're going to utilize in the scooter is going to be in a kilowatt hour. Say you are one of the battery pack that I mentioned here is a 40 Ah battery pack. That means it is a 72 volts battery pack and 40 Ah, which means it's a 2.8 kilowatt nominal battery pack, not at the peak. Now, for this 40 Ah, what is the charger am I using? Is it a 5 ampere, 6 ampere, 10 ampere? For ease of math, I'm going to use a 10 ampere charger, and your battery pack is of a 40 Ah battery pack. 40 divided by 10, that means 4. This 4 hours is needed for your battery pack to be fully charged. That is the time to fully charge your battery pack in a very layman term. And Samsung, we have answered your question already. Kamatam Chiranjeevi, is future the electric vehicles is made with hydrogen gas? Is that true? Yes, the researchers are happening. Our Honorable Minister, Mr. Gadkari ji, is already using one of the cards made by the hydrogen base cell. And yes, these kind of innovations and these kind of researches will keep on happening. The evolution will go on. And, as I said, the future is all electric. The only way these vehicles are going to be functional is with the different modes. How many are
hand raising ones? And then to unmute and speak.
Okay. Anyone who have raised the question, raise your hands. Please unmute yourself and.
They can't. They should. You can address his name.
So Ranjit, you can ask your question.
And disadvantages of the EV vehicle.
Sorry.
Advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah. So as I said, when we are talking about advantages and disadvantages, it is more of a comparison. So, as the question is vague, it's too difficult for me to answer in comparison to what. If you're trying to compare it with an ICE vehicle, yes, it is advantageous. If you're trying to compare it with a solar it is little disadvantageous, because at the end, to get the energy within this electric vehicle, we are trying to get the thermal energy, right? So it depends on case to case basis on how we are trying to compare and with what. So, Deva Harsha, you
Yeah.
may
So,
go ahead and ask.
sir, nowadays I have come to notice that the price range is the low vehicle from 30,000 to 1 lakh, sir.
Sorry,
So,
price factor of the electric vehicle, you mean?
yeah, sir. From
Okay.
least to high. So, is there any price difference to in materials using in electric vehicles, sir?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, when there is always a trade-off between the price and the quality. When the price gets down, your quality is going down, and when there is the price hike, that means you are getting a superior quality, right? It is also, when we say the quality, it is not just in terms of the quality of the product, but the material it's used actually, right? Just now we were talking about the battery pack cells, right? When I said we are using 18650 cells. So there are also 22350, there are also 3300, there is also 4300, there are also hydrogen based cells, there are also LTO cells. So each of this form factor, type factor, and chemistry of the cells do change, and each of them would vary with their cost. And also the plastics that are used, chassis that is built, the strength of this chassis, everything does change. But I would say a typical lithium ion kilowatt hour, you can just Google it before you buy any particular electric vehicle, right? Someone who says the 30,000 rupees and someone who says a 1,65,000 rupees, try to do a comparison study. What is that being offered here? What is that being offered here? And this majority would be there. The difference would be there. But uh, the kilowatt cost of the battery pack itself is way higher than the price of the scooter. That means something is wrong here potentially. So we need to be wise in taking a decision.
Sir,
I
one
hope
more
I've
question,
answered
sir.
you.
Last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, is this lifespan is reduced or increased, sir, by using materials?
Yeah, so it depends on the way we use, right? Say, we have I try to compare this with the smartphone all the time. So, it is just for the ease of understanding. Take a smartphone, take a normal smartphone with a nominal charging, and then we try to boost it every now and then with a regular charging. Now, this smartphone will eventually die in a year. It is all based on the utilization factor, right? How many times are we using? How many times are we charging? How many times are we discharging? And what rate, right? And all these factors will contribute towards the life of the smartphone. The same implies here as well. The way we are utilizing it, the way we are servicing it, and the way we are trying to fix the battery pack matters a lot in making the vehicle run for a longer time.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
hope
sir.
I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Rapala Krishna Madhav, you can
Yes,
go ahead
sir.
and ask.
Good morning, sir.
Good
So
morning.
my question is that you said that motor is as a relevant to the mechanism of ceiling fan, sir. Yes, sir. Why? What's the reason to take that mechanism? Is there any advantage of taking that mechanism of a motor?
See, it is not about the mechanism, right? The motors run like that. The motors are built like that. The motors are designed such. So it is a electromagnet, right? So to create that motion, it is designed such. So there is nothing that we're trying to create here.
Sir, in the module, do they place in between the wheels or the
No,
motors?
the motor is the motor itself, right? And over and above is just the say a typical vehicle has got the tire, the rim, the alloy wheels and everything, right? Here the alloy wheel is replaced with the motor, right? That is the BLDC motor that we are utilizing. And then there are also hub motors. There are also other types of motors that we can utilize. And if you look at Ather, there's a different type of motor used. If you look at the Ola's, the lowest level, which is like Ola S1A that they're launching, the motor in that is completely different. So these are typically two types of motors that we generally use.
Yes, sir. One last question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, arranging the batteries, the cells in the battery, it can affect the heating or damage of the batteries, sir. You explained just now, but
Mhm.
can you explain can you specify that how to deal the batteries or arrange the batteries or uh, in parallel or in a series?
See, right now it depends on how to configure your battery pack, right? Because it's basically the engineering sitting there on how to design this battery pack. When I say the engineering, it is primarily to see what capacity of the battery pack you're building, right? Your cell is of a 2.5 Ah. Now,
Yes.
we know how, when the current is added and when the voltage is added, right? When you want to increase the voltage, you try to increase the series. When you try to increase the current, you try to increase it in the parallel. Thereby, your current and your voltage are changed. Now, if you want to build a 72-volt powertrain, the simple math is what is your cell capacity? Assuming for a ease of math, you have 3.6 volt cell and you have a 72-volt pack. Then divide 72 by 3.6. Those are the number of series you need to connect. And the same, each battery pack has got a capacity of energy. And then you want to build a XYZ capacity. Build that XYZ divided by capacity of each cell. Then you will know how many cells have to be placed in the parallel. And all of these have to be placed within the cell brackets. And then they have to be, packed, sealed, stripped with the nickel strips. And that is when, you know, uh, uh, the battery pack is actually made. This is in a very vague sensor. Like there's again a lot of components that will be involved in a complete battery pack design and development.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, can you specify that some accessories of a battery which show the heat level or temperature level uh, and to overcome that situations of damaging the battery? Can you please?
So all this information would be, shown with the help of a smart BMS. And nowadays, every manufacturer is giving their mobile application, where you'll be able to track what is the SOC, DTE, RSOC, what are the parameters that will constitute the good health of your battery pack. All these parameters are typically shown in your mobile application or, any such platform that a manufacturer is or will be sharing.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Narsimha Irla, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Ask one more. We can go to the next question.
Yeah,
We can go to the next.
sure. Raven, you can ask your question.
No. Then we can answer a question in the chat box for now. 3 dots, chat. Any question, ma'am?
Sir, which type of battery is more safety for EVs, sir?
See, there is a lot of evolution going around, right? When the electric vehicles started, we were utilizing the lead acid battery packs. The lead acid it will take a lot of time to charge, right? And the number of kilometers that we can travel with this battery pack would again drastically reduce. Then we move towards lithium ion. Lithium ion again has its pros and cons, right? And at the same time, now we're moving towards LFP, which is lithium ferrous phosphate. There is no good and bad choice. I would say it is on the type of an application where we want to utilize. If you want to create a swapping infrastructure, then it should be something handy where the net weight of the battery pack should be easier because you need to just lift it up, swap it, and move, right? So if you look at LFP, the energy densities there are different than what it is in the lithium ion. The same goes with the LTO. The area that it is going to occupy with a liter of boot space, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a lot. So it is all on the form factor, type factor, and the usage patterns on which battery pack is uh, uh, needed for our use case. But as said, any battery pack is particularly safe as long as it is built as per the standards and it is used wisely, not just treating it as like it's a battery pack, it's going to run and I can use whatever base it is. right? So I think that is something from my side. Um, Sir, can't we charge an EV, Geeta Gagan? Can't we charge an EV vehicle on wireless fast charging? Yes, these sort of innovations are coming into place. If you look at Germany as an entity, right, you don't need to plug and play any of these uh, electric vehicles for a charge pod, right? So you see one of these interesting videos that popped up recently, wherein an electric bus, it's actually moving. It came to a bus stop, and then it's just like your train, where the poles of your train have moved up, and then it is directly taking the power from the grid. Right? These kind of innovations are coming absolutely into place, and these are something expected from the talent. People like you who can bring in a lot of things onto the table. Anwar Aziz Ahmed, what are the battery cycle of these types of batteries? Anwar, great point here. Every electric vehicle, again, depending on the type of cell that we're using, type of a battery pack we're using, each of them has got certain cycles, and this will be decided by the cell manufacturer, and it keeps on varying from the who the manufacturer is, who the cell, which cell it is, and what kind of a chemistry it is. So it depends on cell to cell basis, but typically stands from 1,000 to anywhere up to 10, 20,000 also. It depends on the chemistry of the battery pack. So why to rush to battery station when bike discharge? It's better to attach solar panel to the bike so that it can recharge anytime. Janvi, it's again, look at it from a consumer point of view, right? Now we have a two-wheeler. Most of the time we are sitting on the seat. The external parameters are, the external available parts are on the sides and on the front. So now it's all about the mechanical engineering on where to place this solar panels. And also imagine, now I'm utilizing this solar energy and making it, recharging it and running it. But then when you're running on the road, if say it's on a gloomy day, how are you going to recharge your vehicle? So getting to solar is something really, really good. Thereby we will not just move towards zero, but we'll go to a net zero carbon emission. But this is something we can utilize at the charge stations or the park stations, wherein we are trying to consume that energy and saving it into another battery pack. So the utilization can be in different way, but not having the solar panel directly on the scooter, because it has, again, there are pros and cons for the same. Navigation and tracking of road-bound vehicles using maps support on EVs. Navigation and tracking of road-bound vehicles using map support on EVs. Teja Kumar, I really did not understand this question. Can you please specify little more detail so that I can answer it? Narzo 20, sir, can we control the vehicle by remote? Yes, absolutely. There are different ways you can control the scooter. One can be RFID, two can be NFC, three can be BLE, and it is 100% we will be able to do. And fourth one, you will always be able to do it by the GSM module, where you're sending a command from remotely, and then the device is able to take its decision. But it is also necessary to ensure that the security mechanisms are in place, wherein, when the radio frequency is being sent, and how is it controlling your particular vehicle? Am I prone to any kind of a hack, any kind of a theft? So that is something we need to take into picture. Other than that, yes, we will be able to control the vehicle. Chiranjeevi, EV takes more time to charge, and fueling an EV is also an issue, sir. Can we develop this by using technology? Yes, charging and fueling an electric vehicle is time taking, but we need to understand something. If you look at the surveys about the two-wheeler segment, particularly in India, 80% of the two-wheelers are idle most of the times. Why? Because most of them, the corporates go to their offices. People go to their works. And let me answer this, and then I'll get back to you. So, when the vehicle is idle so long, right, you have enough time to recharge your scooter. So for a typical use case, like a person going to a corporate or to an education institution, there is ample time for them to charge. If the use case is the delivery boy, he is roaming around for 100, 120 kilometers a day. For him, swapping is something that is needed. So in a use case like this, we just need a charging. In a use case like delivery, we just need swapping or rapid charging. So it is again depends on use case to use case, and uh, uh, it is we can't just say which technology or what exactly needs to what specific use case. Nageshwar, can I get your personal contact that I want to talk about my project? Sure. Post this session, we'll be sharing our credentials. You can also get in touch with Hi, wherein they'll be connecting us together, wherein we can exchange our synergies, try to explore something. Uh, Ashrit, which method is used to dissipate heat from the battery pack? I mean, we use vanes to dissipate heat from IC engines. So is there any similar? Yes, here it is more about the epoxy sheets that are being used to control the heat, and also the external casing that is used has a different chemistry. So that is particularly used in the heat dissipation. Pavan Kumar, why we not make a mini generator in EV? Pavan Kumar, it's all about the real estate. Uh, so the two-wheelers, imagine where are you going to put your, today there is no space to put your helmet. There is no space to put your, belongings in the boot, just like your typical combustion engine. So it's all about the real estate and how we are going to wisely use that space. Malikarjun, I think we can address this question offline. Pavan Kumar, when we make a mini generator in EV, we can recycle the power in EV. It's on, how much energy are you going to generate from a EV mini generator, and how is this generator functioning? Is it a dynamo kind of a functionality? Just like if you look at, in our olden days when we were cycling on the Atlas bicycle, we had a little small tiny bulb that was running with the, whenever you used to, pedal, the bulb used to lighten up. So imagine the amount of energy that you need to pedal the give to just turn on that bulb. So here we're talking about 48 volts, 60 volts, and 72 volts. So it depends on the form factor, type factor, space to get this generation done and utilize it. And that is why I was saying the regenerative braking is not that much of an effective solution, because it is just a drop in the ocean, and it can even affect your whole battery pack as well. Nageshwar, yes, let's connect offline and we can discuss. Main difference between car battery and the bike battery. See, battery pack is typically the same anywhere. The cell that you see in your phone, the wall clock, to the battery pack that is made out. It is just the number of cells that are packed together to make a battery pack, right? So it is all constituting of a cell, but it is just the type of a chemistry that is being used, so that the difference is there. In the cars, maybe we are going to use a prismatic cell, a cylindrical cell, and in bike, the cells might be cylindrical again or the prismatic, but it again depends on the type of chemistry that is being used. Which mentioned used to dissipate the heat. I mean, we use vanes. This is answer. Teja Kumar, what about the EV's navigation tracking on the road bond using map support in the future? Teja Kumar, please reframe the question. I really am not able to understand. So does the EV depend on temperature? Yes, temperature plays a crucial role in designing the battery pack, because we see our temperatures going beyond 40, 45 degrees, 50 degrees sometimes in the summers, right? So the battery packs, typically when they're being used, there is a heat that is being generated. And for this heat, there is a dissipation that is needed. Plus, the external heat that is going to be pumped on this battery pack increases the temperature more than anything, right? So now the cells are made to accommodate certain temperature. And if that temperature goes beyond what it is, then there might be a potential thermal runaway. If we can, what is the minimum and maximum watts of the solar power? So Syed Muhammad Ali, yes, we can use the solar for the EVs, but it is again on the real estate, on where these solar panels are placed, how we are going to generate energy, and how we are going to use it for the vehicle, right? As I said, the energy is dependent on what is the capacity of your scooter and how many kilometers you want to run. So based on that, we need to decide how much wattage of solar panel has to be placed. No, we're just going to. How promising are battery technologies chemistries such as sodium ion, and how far away we are seeing them used at the commercial scale? The question from Bharat Barki. Yes, the sodium ion, the lithium titanium oxide, or lithium ferrous phosphate, these are something, or aluminum in such case, these are something proven in the labs, I would say. It is also, we need to see in realistic scenario how quickly we can adapt to it and how quickly we can run it in the commercial use case. For commercialization, I think it is too early for us because there is a lot of validations that we need to do. But these are some sort of technologies that we're going to for sure see in the future, which are going to be commercialized and which we are going to see a replacement for lead acid, lithium ion, and moving ahead with a quicker, rechargeable, and scalable solution like such. Can we replace a solar panel in battery? We can always do that, Nagaraju. We can always do that. These kind of R&Ds, placing a solar panel in the battery pack, trying to recharge it, and how we are going to charge it. So it is part of R&D. Yes, we can always do that. How much to speed going to bike? How much weight on the bike? So someone using a Redmi phone. So here, these are the parameters that are going to be set by the manufacturer because they are the one who is configuring the motor, controller, and the battery pack, right? The speed of the battery pack is going to be controlled by them. The weight of which this scooter can be driven is going to be controlled by them, right? So the weight on the battery pack is going to be designed by them, and we more the weight, lesser the range, right? This is the trade-off. Guru Sai Kumar, please ask. We are here to answer your questions. Guru Sai Kumar, you can shoot your question. Which method is used to battery pack? I think this we have answered already. Sandeep, nowadays batteries vehicle are getting fire in India. It is because potential thermal runaways. The customer should not, I mean, I would not say it's the problem of a manufacturer. It's a problem of a customer also. Because when we're trying to interact with a lot of customers or a lot of users these days, right, the expectations goes way beyond when we say electric vehicle. So this sort of the a sort of understanding should be there from the customer side also. What happens when and why are we looking at electric vehicles in a different way? Because it's just a replacement for internal combustion engine, right? Which is going to reduce your capex, or it is going to reduce your operational expense and little more savings on the monies and saving the environment as well. Then why expect more than what it is from ICE engines, right? So this thought process has to be kept by the customer before even looking at EV segment. Can EV batteries be recycled? 100% yes, Monica. There are a lot of companies entering now into the battery recycling space also, because tomorrow these are all going to be the waste, piles of piles waste kept aside. Someone who is looking keen about the future, because as I repeat, as we continue our discussion, electric EVs are the future and future is going to be electric, and there is need for the recycling of these older battery packs to be happening. And anyone who is planning to venture into it, do your homework thoroughly, and there is a lot of future in the recycle of these battery packs also. Bring in the innovation here, and that is the space that needs to be touched. Is there any solution for that, sir? May I know the question for which the solution needs to be there so I can answer? Navina, is there an environmental pollution by using these EVs? So Navina, we are trying to use electricity that is generated and use this, save this in a battery pack by recharging it and utilizing it. So the emissions have become zero, right? So there is no combustion as such. So there is a zero carbon footprint. Thereby, we are not polluting the environment. Yes, you may ask me, while production of this electric vehicle, there is a pollution happening. While production of lithium ion, extraction of lithium, there is pollution happening. And while generating this electricity, again, there is a pollution happening. So there's a lot of things that are happening here, right? So what we're trying to move towards is now we are a zero carbon footprint companies. Or then later on, there are going to be startups or companies that are going to evolve, which will be targeting towards net zero carbon footprint. As many of our colleagues here mentioned, why don't we use solar panels? Yes, when we look at the solar panels and recharging these battery packs, then we have cut down one of the element of generating thermal electricity, right? We have now moved towards a solar electricity. So we are trying to move to a step by step. When these transitions are happening, that's a gradual and then gradual steps that we need to take by learning at every phase. What we have seen from a normal phone to a smartphone, it was not just a simple jump. It took a while for us. It took a while to understand what exactly is this touchscreen, what exactly is this smartphone. So it was a step by step incremental process, and that is what we will see in the electric vehicles also. Is it possible to drive EV vehicle in rainy season? Pranav, 100% yes. It is just on the IP rating of your motors, IP rating of your battery packs. You can absolutely run your electric vehicles in the rainy season, but ensure that the water doesn't get into the battery pack, water doesn't get into your motor controllers. Else, as it is electric vehicles, there is a potential chance of getting this into shortage. But if we are riding it well and if we are cautious about where we are utilizing and how much we are utilizing in what water, you are absolutely safe to run it in rainy season. EV battery suitable for all weather conditions. Kiran Shankar Arumugam, yes, it is suitable for all weather conditions, because today, at least as Hala, we are running the show from past 2 years. There are other companies that are running the show from almost 5 to 10 years now. So these companies are running in all weather conditions like winter, rainy, summer, monsoons, anytime. So can we mute? Raise a hand if yes.
No, it's no.
Yeah, perfect. So EV battery suitable for all weather conditions, answered. EV batteries be recycled, answered. Can't two-wheeler EV have rapid charging? Yes, Ajay Bablu. Look at the EV rapid charging in a way, right? Like when I said battery pack's life is dependent on the usage of the vehicle. So if a battery pack's capacity is 2 kilowatt, and if you're consuming say 1.3 kilowatt, 1 kilowatt of energy, because the motor's capacity is 1 kilowatt, that means you're consuming 0.5 C. And for the same battery pack, you're charging with a 10 ampere charger. That means you're charging it with a 0.5 C. Then the battery pack's life would be good. It is all on the type of a cell. Say if you're using a LTO kind of a chemistry, you can still give a 30 kilowatt power also, wherein the charging would happen in 15 seconds, 15 minutes, right? So these are things. It is, we can use rapid charge, but the chemistry of the battery pack has to be different. We can use slow charging, the battery pack has to be different. So these are some things that we'll know once we dig deeper into what kind of energy we are trying to use and what kind of a cell we are using. I think that will give a right sense of understanding on what kind of a charge we need to use. Yes, absolutely, we can use a rapid charge. My answer is yes. Can we manufacture any power banks of EV vehicles that we can recharge our vehicle in absence of power stations? Pujita Nalana, yes. If you look at a company called Silence, right? This is a Barcelona-based company. So their scooters actually run like a trolley, right? Wherein you can use their battery packs for the scooter. You can utilize it for your outdoor, vacation, outdoor partying, whatever you want to do. So these are typical like a power banks that can be quickly charged. So the Silence Echo has their own charge module, which acts as a recharge unit for your vehicles. So there are ways to do it, but again, cost factor. Today, if we look at two-wheelers cost, 50% to 60% cost comes from the battery pack. So to have a power bank, additional power bank to recharge this, you're going to spend a lot of amount for that. So do your cost analysis before you buy a power bank for your EV. If the future is EV, then how do we deal with producing more power to run these vehicles? The number of vehicles in the world is around twice the human population. So how do we cope up with this? Thanks for putting forward this, Swati. Yes, there is a power grid issue, at least for a country like India, wherein the power consumption is already reaching way beyond just by our daily consumables. Now, adding a layer of EVs to it, yes, there will be a lot of power grid issues, and uh, there are many people like Greenco, there are Adanis of the world who are trying to bring in different solutions. Right, we are not just dependent on hydrogen, water based or thermal, or now we are trying to bring in solar for that, just one such reason. And bigger players like people are already trying to build solutions around this, to see how the grid problems are addressed. This is something which is running across, and people are working towards building a solution on how to make this win-win situations for people using electric vehicles. Sheikh Mohammed Rafi, in the school zone area, the bike and car can automatically slow in school down area, which with the help of sensors. It was helpful or not, sir? So, Rafi, too much of smartness is not good for anything, right? Now, if we are trying to say automatically slow down your school zone, so imagine the amount of data that is being moved across. That means you might have an underlying platform like Google Maps, and your underlying platform of uh, IoT that is sitting inside the scooter, and these both are exchanging the information from there. And it is more or less a autonomous vehicle now. When it is automatically taking a decision to slow down at a school zone, right? So I think, at least from my experience, from my knowledge, we are not yet ready. Why am I saying this? It's not because of what's happening, but it's also in terms of the infrastructure, right? Today, we need to see where the charge stations are, where the swap stations are, and how the roads are. And right, so to get into the autonomous space, it's going to take a while. It is not just the sensors, but infrastructure plays a key role, and that social behavior plays a key role. And it will be 100% helpful, because things are moving at a rapid pace, and we need to evolve. And as we evolve, autonomous comes into picture. What kind of motors are being used? Example, brush motors or brushless motor or anything else? How will they supply the power to the motor? What kind of sensor are being used? There are different types of motors utilized, as I said, with a realistic scenario. Just take Ola as an example. Ola as a high-end model, S1 Pro. Ola as a low-end model, which is S1 Air. S1 Air has a BLDC motor, and at the same time, S1 Pro has got a mid-drive motor. So each of them has a different use case, different ways they perform, and this power or to the motor is being done by the motor controller unit, which is actually the heart of the vehicle, which also tries to control the other parts of the vehicle. There are also a couple of Hall sensors that will be placed inside the motor controller to see what are the fault codes that are happening within the motor. Yes, Sandeep, we have discussed this point. There are vehicle fires happening. It is not just about the technology, but also the human responsibility on trying to charge it with proper charger, trying to build smart thermal management systems. And this kind of innovation is happening. And on the other hand, as a consumer, we also should be self-aware on how to charge, how not to charge. Sir, there are any technology to reduce the battery size by using nanotechnology? Yes, again, there are a lot of innovation going on in this space also, wherein the cell space can be reduced. But nowadays, again, there are mixed amount of questions in this cohort of group we have, right? People are asking for rapid charge, people are asking for lower charge, people are asking for solar self-generative. So this is not just a one answer, I would say, because it's a gradual, step-by-step, incremental way of looking at solutions. But sometimes one of the solutions that we might be bringing, maybe a nanotechnology, we might be too nascent or too early to bring it to the bring it to the ground. And being too early is also problematic because sometimes the adoption has to go through, then the incremental growth has to go through. And to answer your question, Harsha, yes, the nanotechnology will play a crucial role down the lane, wherein the battery sizes will be reduced and uh, the power density of that battery pack can be increased. Uh, Pawan, you can reframe your question. I did not understand. Our speed produced the power. I did not understand that question. Um, on about heat dissipation, is it good, sir? Yes, of course. Having more and more. See, the researchers should not stop. If once the research stops, that means there is the stoppage for your evolution, right? And any kind of research is good because there can be a learning, there can be a takeaway from any sort of a outcome, right? Research is just a experiment that you're doing based on one of the hypotheses, and uh, the result can anyways lead to one of the destinations, and it is always good, is what I feel, because I come from a research background. And why are you not using graphene batteries? Yes, we are using graphene batteries. Lithium titanium oxide is already out there. Log9 is one such company where you can explore what is happening. And it is just in Bangalore. If anyone is willing to go, maybe next time I would offer a training session with these people. We are using graphene batteries and we are making the graphene batteries for the world. Naveen Penchel, what is the reason of decreasing efficiency in batteries after long-term use? And it is not just in use EVs, Naveen. Battery degradation happens everywhere. It's just because there is a chemical that is stored in the cell, and this chemical has got certain life. And once we use beyond that life, everything has to go away. In case of battery will dead, we use any type of battery to replace it or not? You should take an advice from your manufacturer or your dealer on what battery pack to be used. We can be, we can be engineers. We can try to use whatever chemistry it is possible. But again, the voltage ratings and the frequencies, try to look into those aspects first before you change any chemistry. The capacity of an EV can be decreased or increased by, depends on the temperature. Capacity of EV. Please be specific here. What is the capacity? Is it the battery pack capacity or is it the life of the EV? It's not really clear for me. What are the main reasons to invent this? Vijay Kumar, this is Vijay. I'm doing it. Right, we can't recharge battery pack while using though any wind source or revolution. The reason will be little complicated. I think the question and answer is with you, Vijay Kumar. So, we have discussed this point earlier. Karthik Venkata, yes, we have discussed this. Why can't we use solar energy for vehicles? We can 100% utilize, and that is when we'll be able to achieve our zero carbon footprint, net zero carbon footprint, as I say. In case the battery will be dead, we use, that is car different, battery different. This we have addressed. Why not use graphene batteries addressed? How to using braking system. Regenerative braking system is something, it's already there in the market. Whenever distance, and after that, once you brake it, it's based on that motion, energy is generated that will be fed to the battery pack. Why we are not using Mairam Sivaredi, how many cells required to run the EV? As I said, when you're building a battery pack, the number of cells depend on the series and parallel combinations, depends on the cell chemistry, depends on cell voltage and cell capacity of AH. Based on this, the number of cells would depend. In terms of, as I say, 72 volts, 24 into 3.6, which gives you 72 volts. That means 24 cells are placed in a series. And in the AH, if you say so, I just need a 10 AH battery packs, then it's 5. 24 into 5 is what you need to 24 into 5 number of cells are needed to build a battery pack of 72 volts and 10 AH. Is there any difference between the two-wheeler and two-wheeler EVs while selecting the motor? Yeah, as I said, S1 Air has got a different motor, S1 Pro has got a different motor. So each one of them has a different use case, right? One of them is fit for any type of harsh climate, and one of them will not work if the IP ratings are not fine. The water can get into the motor, and the motor might not function. So there's also trade-off in terms of the pricing as well. In Alan Nagarohit, a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle is a type of electric vehicle. Is it true, sir? Of course, yes. Is there a difference between two-wheeler and four-wheeler? No, this is already addressed. Automatic charging is using in running vehicles. Is it possible? As of now, we haven't seen anything of automatic charging. But if there is anything specific, I would love to learn from that. Which cooling system is using to cool the battery? Yes, there are researches being done with the fluid cooling system or thermal management system with epoxy sheets and all. There are a lot of R&Ds that are happening within this space, and the younger talent, the mastermind sitting here in this cohort can come up with any sort of R&D solutions that you might feel like this might potentially save the thermal runaways that are happening in India. Why do e-bike catch fire? We have addressed this question. Cooling system answered. One battery, how many times are recharged? It depends on the cell. It depends on the battery pack. It depends on the chemistry. Anything potentially starts from 800 to almost 20,000-30,000 also. Rajshekar Reddy, we have a college racing team, and it said that it takes twice the money to make EVs powerful than ICE. Can you comment on this? Not actually. Today, if you look at the racing scooters, maybe say compare it with a Ninja or a Hayabusa, it might come down at 7 to 8 lakh rupees. Today, if you look at a company called Ultraviolet, they are bringing a sports range electric vehicle at 2 to 3 lakhs. So the assumption is wrong. Bhavdish, electric vehicles are the solution for many transportation problems. Is it safe for the transport sector? Nearest future, they're easy to move around. Yes, it is. Yeah. So electric bikes are a solution to too many of transportation problems. Yes, it is. It's a solution for too many of problems of too many of problems in the transportation sector. It can be the congestion, pollution. The space that is happening. That is why countries like France are coming up and saying your car is your enemy on the road, right? Because it occupies a lot of space. Which is better, hub motor or a belt motor technology? I would say both of them have their own pros and cons. It is on the usage pattern. Which type of battery is the best in EV and its range, sir? So I would say I've used lithium-ion, LTO, LFP, different types. And for me, as I cater different category of customers, it is on the capacity and it is on the chemistry. So each one has got their own uses, what I said. Sure. Yeah. Automatic charging is running on the wheels. Yeah, I'll just close it. So I'll close this with 2 or 3 more questions, and then I'll hand over it to Bhavya. We can answer these questions offline for sure. All of your questions will be recorded. We will make a note and we'll answer on a personal note to everyone. It's not about the battery here. Yeah. Automatic charging is using to running wheels. Is it possible? Load capacity of e-vehicle. Load capacity, I think this we have answered already. While running the electrical charging, is it possible? Should last between 3 to 5 years. This metric is dependent on the bicycle's individual components. With motor and bicycle's battery will begin to lose efficiency around 500 charge. Yes, as I said, the number of cycles will depend on the type of cell that you're using, right?
If I am saying 18650 cell is what I'm using, then 18650 cell will run maximum say 1000 kilometer, 1000 cycles, 1000 times it can be charged and discharged, but not beyond that. If you look at the graphene or LTO kind of a technology, it can run up to 20-30,000 cycles, right? So it is all on the technology we are using and how we are using. Why are we not using graphene? Karthik, I think we have answered this. Too many of duplications. The Duru Sai Kumar, charging is difficult in EV, so in our I don't think so, Duru Sai Kumar. If you look at a platform called Bolt, where they have almost 10,000 plus charging points across India, right? If someone is based out of Hyderabad here within the cohort, I would say there are almost 100 to 200 bigger charging points. These are for the cars, I'm saying, right? And the problem is not with the charging, I would say. It is problem with our thought process, guys. Typically our runway on a personal use case is not more than 50-60 kilometers. Why are we running behind more number of kilometers, right? We need to address the problem in a right way is what I see, because many of the questions here is about the range anxiety, but range anxiety comes to a person who is more into a commercial segment, not into personal transportation category. You just roam for 60 kilometers. You don't go to your office more than 60 kilometers, right? It is in a very rare scenario where this person might travel for a 60 kilometers or to just go to his office. For them, there is enough space, enough time for them to charge at their office, and they can still run the show. So we need to be wise in making our judgments about anything here. About the internships, you can always reach out to High Team, and we are very much happy to connect with you all offline. We always look for smart talent who can bring in innovation, who can bring in solutions for the problems that we're facing. And anyone who is looking forward for internships or any such opportunities, please do reach out to High Team, and they'll be able to guide you to the next steps. And I'll hand over it to Kavya. So she's taking forward.
So hi guys. The questions that have not been answered, please fill them in the feedback link. We'll be sharing. You can check the chat box for the feedback link as we have shared. Please give your questions over there. We'll get back to you on that. And we have a new batch starting on 21st of November, and a job-oriented course for all the electrical graduates and professionals. Okay. You can reach out to us on this number, and we would definitely help you out. Okay? Yeah, you will get your certificates in a couple of days after filling the feedback form, guys. Okay. But you must make sure you will fill the feedback form. If you fill the feedback form, you'll get your certificate. Okay. So, thank you, guys.